Lawyers, what's a law that isn't real that normal people insist exists? An arrest isn't magically invalidated if the police don't read you your rights on the spot. There could be a whole thread of just misconceptions people have from watching cop TV. My father, who is a lawyer. Policemen cannot lie to you. This is false. They can and they do. Edit. There's so many replies that I cannot even find some of the ones I'd like to respond to, so I want to leave a general note for those who have asked for a reference. Frazier vs. Cupp is the Supreme Court ruling that affirmed the legality of deceptive interrogation tactics in 1969. The ruling is still active. It's federal law in the US that a plainclothes or undercover police officer has to identify themselves as law enforcement if asked. No, it's not the law. And they can tell you whatever the duck they want. Driving with interior overhead car lights on is not illegal. Edit. Thanks for the gold. Kind stranger. My first. People that think it's illegal to be videotaped in a public space. In California, it's not illegal to discuss your wages with your coworkers, despite what your boss might say. Edit. I'm a lawyer in California. I assume it's the same in the other 49 states, but don't want to speculate. It's a law that exists but widely misunderstood as the concept of entrapment. If the police put a bait vehicle in a high crime area, that is not entrapment. If the police are watching a bar known to overserve to see if there are impaired drivers at the end of the night, that is not entrapment. Entrapment only occurs when a gov agent suggests committing a crime that you were not otherwise going to commit. This isn't exactly what you're asking for, but I think it's valuable for people to know. You do not need to wait 24 hours to report someone as missing. The one that is the most frustrating to me, even though it's not really a specific claim that a particular law exists, more a rule of evidence, is that's just hearsay. You have no evidence. Comes up all the time, in all kinds of contexts. Even lawyers love using it when it suits them. Nothing but hearsay and speculation. Usually, what people mean when they say that is don't believe them. They're lying. Which, fair enough. But that's not what hearsay means. Lots of evidence is just a person talking. That's what a witness is. It's why testimony exists. It's not evidence just because it's a person talking. Hearsay just means that in most cases, you can't have person A say that person B said this in order to prove that this actually is true. Hearsay. Get it? I heard B say it. It just means your witness can only talk about things they actually know about. And, extremely importantly, it also doesn't count as hearsay when person B is actually the person on the other side of the case. Person A is totally allowed to say person B told me yes, I will commit the crime on Tuesday if person B is the defendant, who has been accused of committing the crime on Tuesday. You don't get to complain it's hearsay if you're the one who supposedly said the thing they heard. Probate attorney here. I've had many people ask me when the reading of the will is going to take place. I explain to them that only happens in movies, but one of these days I am going to have one, and hire a mysterious blonde wearing a veil to sit in the corner quietly. Then I'll tell everyone that she inherits everything, provided, of course, that she must adopt the dissident's cute but troublemaking 6-year-old child no one knew about, or she can spend the night in a haunted house. Her choice. In the UK, it's not illegal to park on someone else's driveway. It's classified as trespassing, a civil offense, not criminal, which means the police can't do anything. This particularly surprises people as many think that they have exclusive rights to the parking outside their house as well. As a former lawyer, UK, I lost count of the amount of people that thought jaywalking was a crime. Unless it's a road that specifically states no pedestrians or a motorway. No such offense exists here. Edit. To clarify, I'm talking about it not being a crime in the UK. It may well be elsewhere. Australia, USA, Germany and others. No laws against driving barefoot. In the UK that it is illegal to drink under the age of 18. You can buy alcohol with a meal at 16. Beer, wine, cider, and you are not breaking any laws if you give your child some alcohol in the privacy of your own home and they are over the age of 5. Edit. At 16 you have to be accompanied by an adult and it is paid for by the adult. Thanks you Kellisk. I'm no lawyer but I don't feel like most of the villains in Scooby-Doo committed any actual crime. I don't think it's against the law to put on a mask and scare some trespassers on your own property. Good Samaritan laws aren't nearly as broad as people think. For context, I work in emergency services. Some people believe that I was trying to help are the magic words that can get them out of any sticky situation. Edit. Good, some laws vary by country and state, and the medical examples are a little more black and white than others. Adding a non-medical example of what I'm talking about, imagine you're driving your car and notice someone on the side of the road who needs help. As you swerve off the road to provide assistance to this person in need, you incidentally run over a child on the sidewalk. After the situation is over, you're definitely not free from the consequences of running over the child with your car just because you had good intentions of helping someone else. Versions of that story have occurred, and the drivers have tried to use a good Samaritan defense because they meant well. There is absolutely some gray area on the subject, but if your unprompted action undoubtedly makes the situation worse than if you'd done nothing. Having good intentions is not a get out of jail free card, and a bunch of people don't understand that concept. US. Ex-lawyer here. There is no law that requires the police to provide you with their name and badge number when asked. There may be internal policies, but it's not the law. There is also no law that requires the police to get a supervisor if demanded. Again, policy versus law. There is no law that allows you to question whether an order given by the police is lawful or not. A court has to decide if the order was lawful after the fact, but there are laws to punish you if you do not comply. Edit. Wow, this blew up. Thanks for the good conversation and gold. Truly honored. Quick updates. Someone pointed out that in NY there is a law that requires cops to ID themselves and have a card, which is fantastic. Thank you for correcting the statement. A lot of folks seem to be concerned that no law meant no rules. So to clarify, a lot of things are actually managed via internal policies. Those policies usually have teeth. So no, the police are not interested in just violating them and losing their jobs, etc. Last note, thanks for the civil discourse. A lot of these threads get reduced to flames quickly and by far the comments have been productive and thought-provoking. You guys really are awesome. I've tried to respond to questions and will continue to as long as you think it's useful. Second edit. Since this has come up a lot, I identify as an ex-lawyer because I do not practice law anymore. Attorneys are admitted to practice law under the rules of the bar in their state bar. I left the state that I was admitted to when I changed careers and did not maintain the continuing legal education requirements to maintain my standing with the bar in the state that I left. Nor did I seek admission to the bar in my new state. I am technically ineligible to practice until I complete clerex and recertify with the bar of my old state, but I have no intention of doing that. So, in short, ex-lawyer. Thanks again. Negligent motorcycle driver forced me to hit him from behind with my car. I was young and naive at the time. Never been in an accident until then. Guy makes me sign a paper that says that the accident is my fault because I hit from behind and wanted compensation. I explained the situation to my dad, and he concluded that the guy was obstructing normal traffic and I had no option but to hit him from behind in the particular circumstance. The guy ended up taking us to court. Showed the judge the piece of paper that I signed. I explained that I signed it under duress and that he explained that by law whoever hits from behind is responsible for the accident. Judge looked him in the eye and asked him if that's true. He said yes. Then she asked him to point out which law states that. He just shut the duck up. Duck that guy. Even though many people think so, there has actually never been a Danish law allowing you to beat up a Swede with a stick if he should walk across the ice on Øresund during winter. But, even though the law has never existed, it doesn't mean it shouldn't. Sovereign citizen stuff. I feel like enough folks have claimed to be sovereign citizens that it's become normal. But no, generally you can't declare yourself exempt from the laws in effect where you are. You can go 10 over the speed limit. My dad thought this was true as he was new to the country and quickly found out by a speeding ticket that it was not. Edit. I'm now realizing that this may vary from state to state and county to county. For my case, South Florida generally tolerates 10 over but is still technically illegal. I'm not sure if this would technically be a law or not, but the way tax brackets work, I've repeatedly heard people in retail or construction say something to the effect of, I'm going to turn down this shift because if I take it I'll go up into the next tax bracket and so will pay more in extra taxes than I will earn from taking the shift. The tax system is specifically designed not to do this. Here's an example of how tax brackets actually work. Say there is a tax bracket at $10,000. The rate below $10,000 is 5% and the rate above $10,000 is 10%. People seem to think that if they earn $9,999, they will pay 5% of that, $499.95, in taxes, but that if they earn $10,001, they will pay 10% of that, $1,000.10, in taxes. How it actually works is that you pay 5% on the first $10,000 and 10% only on the dollars above $10,000. If you earn $9,999, you pay $499.95. But if you earn $10,001, you will pay $500.10. You earned an additional $2 and paid an additional $0.15 in taxes. 5 cents on the $10,000th and 10 cents on the $10,001 street dollar. Of course, there are all sorts of weird interactions between taxes and government programs, especially when someone is receiving certain government benefits. It is totally possible for each dollar you earn to be taxed back 1 for 1, or worse. In that case there is a genuine disincentive to work more hours. But for a normal worker thinking about how many hours they can work before they end up in a higher tax bracket, you will never earn less by working more. So just work as much as you like. Edit. Typo. Fighting words is not a defense to battery. It just means that the government can prosecute face-to-face insults likely to lead to a breach of the peace. Eater. Not to say that provocation defenses don't exist dependent on jurisdiction, but fighting words in the US refers to an exception to the First Amendment. Not a lawyer but as someone who watches a lot of public freakout videos with people screaming, it's illegal to film me without my permission. I would say that, in most cases you don't need someone's permission to film in a public place where there is no expectancy of privacy. If it were a public bathroom, then yeah, that might be a problem. But filming at a park or on the sidewalk is not illegal. This great video from Wanda Shozan, a kinder of related to this that cracks me up so much. Freedom of speech in my country. That's from watching too many US movies. In the UK, people often claim that if an item is listed for sale in a shop then the shop legally has to sell it to you at that price. This is not true at all, as the shop doesn't have to sell you anything at any price. Often as a gesture of goodwill shops will honor erroneous prices, but they are under absolutely no obligation to do so. Not quite on point. A lot of people don't understand that co-signing a loan means that you are on the hook for the loan as much as the other person. The car gets repoed and then they are shocked that their wages are getting garnished. Co-signing is not you saying you think your friend is a cool dude who is good for it. You are saying you will pay for it if they don't. And they want you on the hook because they think there is a good chance the main applicant is a deadbeat. Basically, don't co-sign it for anybody. In my country some people believe they can press charges against someone. You can't. You report a crime and the police decide if they are taking it further. It's not up to you whether charges are brought. You may want charges brought but the police drop the case. Alternatively, you can refuse to press charges and the police can bring a case anyway. It's harder without a victim or witness cooperation, but they still can. You do have a right to civil cases of course, but when people say press charges they believe they can do this via the police. Freedom of speech and censorship laws do not apply on social media. If your comments or posts get deleted by an administrator, it is not infringing on your rights. Have you been arrested for your statements? Have you been prosecuted for saying something? If the answer is no, then chill out. Edit. Canada. If you live together for X period of time, you're automatically legally married. There are different time periods for different purposes, and being common law doesn't always have the same effect as being married. So for example, your employer might give your partner spousal benefits after 1 year, but division of property laws might only apply after 3, and all of this varies from one place to another. Some places don't have division of property laws for common law spouses. For example, I'm not driving, I'm traveling. Now, but here's one that bounces around legal advice every couple months. The age of majority in Mississippi is 21. So people say your parents control your life until then and you can't move out without permission until you are 21. The truth is that the law means they have an obligation to provide for you until you are 21. You can't move out at 18 and not face any penalty or be forced to return. Although the age for Mississippi emancipation is officially 21. This only refers to emancipation from a parent's obligation to support their young adult financially. In Mississippi, individuals age 18 and older may vote, enter into legal contracts, take legal action against others and be sued for damages. Similarly, an individual age 18 or older who moves out of his parents' home is not considered a runaway in Mississippi and is not legally required to return to the family home. That commercial use of a photograph means selling the photograph. Commercial use means that there is an implied endorsement. You can take and sell photos of Eric Clapton all day long. Put that same photo in an advertisement for a certain guitar without a release and you can be sued. The legal limit for back in drunk driving. There is no such thing. The common refrain you hear, especially from media outlets that have no idea what the duck they're talking about, is that there's a legal limit to the amount of alcohol you can safely have in your system and legally drive a car. No. Simply no. It doesn't exist. There is a statutorily established per se limit in every state. This means that if you are driving and your back is over that limit, you are per se intoxicated and the state doesn't require any more evidence to convict you. But if you are under that limit, you can still be convicted of drunk driving or driving while intoxicated. The state will have to provide additional evidence to do so. So, even though you've just had one or have a back under the legal limit, you can still get arrested and convicted of drunk driving, DUI, or whatever else your state calls it. They cannot arrest a husband and wife for the same crime. If the teacher is more than 15 minutes late, you're legally allowed to go home. Not a law, but how people believe the polygraph tells the truth. The polygraph cannot be used as evidence in court. Therefore, not science. Might as well use a Ouija board. That an undercover cop is to tell a target that they are undercover if they're asked. Brothel laws at universities. There are no laws stating that 3 or more women in one house constitutes a brothel. Not technically a law, but life, liberty and the pursuit of happiness is not in the Constitution. Hear it all the time and it drives me crazy. Not a lawyer, but unfair firings are oftentimes not illegal. People often assume that if they were treated unfairly at work, like getting fired for something trivial that someone else got away with, that some kind of law has been broken and that they have a strong case for suing. In most cases this is not true. There are only a very few reasons for firing that get accompanying trouble. Firing for race, color, national origin, religion, sex, age, or disability is illegal in all states. Firing for anything else varies from state to state. In many states this means you can be fired for a medical condition, your sexual orientation, tattoos, that stupid look on your face, your weight, etc. Or just because I'm not attracted to you. In many countries escaping from prison is not an offense because the desire to be free is so inherent to humans that it needs to be respected. This is providing you don't commit another felony while escaping, like killing a guard. Edit. My first award ever. Many thanks. When my parents die, the government is going to seize a big chunk of the inheritance and I'll get nothing. In the US this is a very common misconception. Although state inheritance taxes vary, the US federal taxes on inheritance don't actually kick in until the estate's value exceeds $5 million US. So, for the vast majority of working class folks, the federal inheritance tax won't have any effect. But people will still talk to their family lawyers and ask about how much Uncle Sam is taking away when mom or dad die. If the teacher isn't here within 15 minutes, we're legally allowed to leave. Lots of people seem to think that private businesses have to respect your freedom of speech. I'm a law student and definitely self-defense. Even though the law exists, people in my country really think it's broader than it actually is. Cop, not a lawyer. Miranda advisements only are provided when your statement is being taken while in custody. Coercion. A cop doesn't have to read you your rights if he arrests you but doesn't ask you questions after the fact. Many friends of friends ask me, hey, my buddy got popped for a DUI, but the cop didn't read him his rights. Does he get off? The answer is almost always no. Not a lawyer. But many people think that black belt in martial arts have to register their hands as deadly weapons. It pains me when people say this. You can tell who's lying their ass off when they say my hands are registered as a deadly weapon since I am a black belt in insert martial art here. If a trooper isn't wearing his hat when he writes you a ticket, it's automatically dismissed. Nope. He can be wearing a clown costume and have the same authority. That because you insist you live in a free country means you go anywhere and do anything you want. I'm a lawyer. This is not a law that doesn't exist, but a law that is misunderstood. Typically, you can't just go get a restraining order against anybody. Most states have specific laws for who you can get restraining orders against. Typically household members or former romantic interests. Usually, it's only in domestic violence cases or for victims of crimes. You can't just get a restraining order and comically use it to keep someone 100 feet away. In the United States, at least. A lot of people think you have to wait 48 hours to report a disappearance to the police. That is simply false, and waiting that long puts the person at risk even more. That common civil liberty protections restrict individuals or organizations. Freedom of press, speech, due process, etc. only restrict the government. For example, most organizations can restrict your speech based on their internal policies. There are instances where an organization has to provide certain protections based on federal funding, e.g., schools implementing Title IX. Almost all of these could be a real law somewhere. That's why any lawyer would ask what place you're talking about. Just because it isn't a law in your city state doesn't mean it isn't a real law somewhere. More than what's a law that isn't real that normal people insist exists? Believing that freedom of speech protection laws apply to private corporations. For example, crying freedom of speech. When Alex Jones is cut off YouTube, or if Twitter or Facebook deletes something, you are legally protected from the government preventing your freedom of speech. But you have no such protections with Vimeo or any other private corporation. That Costco making you wear a mask violates your constitutional rights. Only the government can violate your constitutional rights. Protection from government overreach is what the Constitution is for. It does not regulate private companies. A real, but widely misunderstood law is HIPAA. People think it protects you from literally any discussion of your health issues by anyone at all. Nope, not even close. I think one thing we should definitely point out is, just because something isn't technically a law, doesn't mean you can't get arrested for it, at least in the US. And we should always point out that the United States has more laws than they even know exists, and law enforcement is not required to understand any of them. So, just because Google claims something, doesn't mean it is true or will hold up. I suggest anyone who is dabbling in law, illegal or legally, give this video a watch. He goes over multiple things, including the 27,000 page book that has all of our laws and no one has read. He also goes over how certain things don't even need to be illegal in your state or in the US. There are laws that state if something is illegal in any country, they can charge you for it. And, of course, the main topic he discusses is why you should never speak to law enforcement under any circumstances. Even if you're 100% innocent, you say nothing. I'm a lawyer, I'm just here to see the laws I don't know are fake. Also 90% of the time someone says First Amendment they don't know anything about what they're talking about. And surprisingly the Jehovah's Witnesses are the leaders in a good chunk of first-time case law. Possession is not 9/10ths of the law, and that saying doesn't mean anything. Search my car, you're gonna need a warrant for that. In the US, the police don't need a warrant to search your car. They just need probable cause or for you to stupidly give them consent. James Harden isn't exempt from traveling. You do have the right to a fair trial, and the only people fighting to keep that right for you are the same ones you hear about suing McDonald's for $200 million. Oh, and also that trial you always hear people point to about frivolous lawsuits where the lady spilled hot coffee on her lap. That was absolutely McDonald's fault. They lost, and they had to change how they brew their coffee because of it. Businesses will stop at nothing to take away your right to a fair trial. Remember that. Cop has to tell you they're a cop. If they are arresting, detaining, or a traffic stop, then yeah. But other than a few state laws, they don't have to tell you it. Turns out, when they actually have to, sometimes they still don't. Turns out, there are a lot of laws that cops don't follow. Leaving a store without buying anything is 100% legal. The elites don't want you to know this, but the ducks at the park are free. You can take them home.